All right, I got a question for you guys. How many of you guys out there trust HR and that they have your best interest at heart? Anyone? I'm not raising my hand because I don't trust HR. And a recent article came out on LinkedIn talking about this topic. And it sounds like a lot of other workers don't trust HR as well. So let's just jump right in. So the title of this article says, "Workers Don't Trust HR. What a surprise." It says, "One resource employees aren't relying on these days? Question mark. Human resources. Nearly half of workers, 47%, don't trust their HR leader, according to new research cited in Harvard Business Review. A small percentage of workers reported feeling safe talking about pay, benefits, work-life balance, and more with HR. Most workers would rather go to a manager or trusted coworker with an issue instead. The reasoning is simple. About 37% of workers believe that HR places the organization's best interests above advocating for employees." Is that a surprise for you guys? Because it's not a surprise for me. All right, so the article starts off by saying the way most human resources departments work just isn't working for employees. Our latest study of 993 employees reveals that when they have concerns, whether it's how they're being treated by their manager or uncivil behavior from a peer, they would rather reach out to most anyone before turning to someone in HR. First, they turn to their manager, then they go to a trusted colleague. If either of those lifelines fail, they attempt to handle the issue themselves. In fact, employees would go to another leader in their organization or do nothing at all before turning to HR. Is that a surprise? No, I don't think it is. For me personally, I've reached out to HR on previous occasions and it's been a mixed bag, to be honest with you. Sometimes they're helpful, but at the same time, they typically will align with management. And so if you have grievances against your boss or someone else, surprise, HR is not going to be on your side most times. And so I think most people are just realizing that there are other sources or resources that you can turn to. And, HR just isn't a trusted resource. And this is pretty sad too, because I have a lot of friends who work in HR. HR, I think, tends to attract a lot more extroverted people. They're typically more social, more people pleasers. And so they want to actually help people. But it's not so much the people's desire or the lack thereof. It's really the organization. And some companies do this better than others. But for the most part, and from the data and the results of this study, it seems like most companies still are having a hard time really creating a culture and an environment where people can truly help people and also build that trust with the employees so that are actually coming to them rather than going to someone else. Let's take a look at some of the tips that this article goes into. It talks about how HR can advocate for concerned employees by coaching them or how to have difficult conversations with their colleagues and managers. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good approach. Advocate as a mentor. It says if and when employees come to HR with unresolved interpersonal conflicts like failing to reach an alignment or agreement on important projects, differences in communication styles, or even issues of disrespect, see it as a mentorship opportunity. This obviously means that HR managers need to have the right level of training and experience to be able to coach employees, because not everyone is going to have these skill sets. So if companies can invest more resources into that kind of training, I think this will definitely be useful. It also gives advice to advocate as a mediator. The third approach is to step in as a mediator when the situation the employee facing is insolvable alone. In this case, you can hear the viewpoints of each side independently and bring the two sides together for a healthy and productive conversation. Begin by setting ground rules at the outset of the meeting, which include allowing each other to tell the story. Okay. Yeah, I think these tips are useful, but at the end of the day, guys, realize that HR exists to protect the company. When you sign your job offer, right? It's an employee at will, meaning you can leave at any time. They can terminate you at any time. And HR is the organization that processes all of this stuff. They also keep track of all the records on all their employees, whether they're a good employee, a bad employee, all your performance reviews and all the other records. And so they have a lot of information and a lot of data on their employees. And at the end of the day, you're just a data point. Most HR teams just aren't staffed to the point where they can have real, meaningful, authentic, genuine one-on-one conversations with their employees when they're going through some struggling times. I've experienced this. If you guys have seen my previous videos on why I left Google, I kind of talked about that in a little bit of detail. And so that was also another experience where I just had a real tough time trusting my HR BP and also trusting my manager to try to resolve the situation that was fair for all parties. And so it's no surprise to me that people are not trusting the system and trusting HR to really look out for their best interest. The way it's set up is that HR is really there to protect the company and to protect the leadership and the C staff. And so my advice to you guys who are working as an individual contributor, maybe you're a manager, but at the end of the day, you're just an employee, you got to look out for yourself. my advice is to have allies, people that you trust, whether it's other coworkers, other people within the company where you have a strong relationship with. Just keep in mind though that people can also backstab you. They might also betray you by sharing your information or sharing the information that you're sharing with them with someone else when you haven't asked them to, or you haven't given them permission. Guys, at the end of the day, even though these companies might say that they're trying to improve their HR or do X, Y, and Z, you got to look out for yourself, guys. Don't depend on anyone else, whether it's a manager or a colleague. Ultimately you have to do what's best for you. And you also have to have contingency plans when things don't go the way you want it to, and make sure that you have a backfill plan to support yourself and your families, because oftentimes HR won't look out for your best interest. Anyways, guys, those are my thoughts on this article and why I think people just distrust HR. And there's good reasons for that. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Subscribe if you haven't, share this video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.